Very much. Joining me now is RNC Communications Director Sean Spicer. And Sean, it's good to have you with me, especially on such an important day, a busy day. But given the lead up to the speech on immigration tonight, a cornerstone of the candidacy has been this hardline approach against Mexico about building a wall, about immigration. What's the conversation been in, like, the campaign for the last 12 hours?
Well, I think it's about how to lay out a lot of what Kelly talked about. I think there's like four main pieces that need to get addressed tonight. One is he's going to talk about working with Congress to get this done. I think one of the things that a lot of Americans, not just conservatives, have been appalled by is this idea of going around Congress and doing things by executive action. So he's going to talk about doing things in a constitutional way. I think he's going to talk about how to secure the border. We've talked about that. Kelly mentioned it, building that wall. Then he's going to talk also about deterrence. I think that's an important part of this. What you have to do through things like E-Verify and others is steps is to make sure that we don't just build a wall and hope that nobody keeps coming in. We've got to make sure that that deterrence factor is there. And then third is how do we deal with the folks that are in the country illegally, as you mentioned, in a humane way. That's one of the subjects that I'm sure will come up today in Mexico as well, but it will all be part of the speech tonight in Arizona. And
also, is there going to be a laid-out vision of how to pay for this? What Trump would propose, and certainly with building a wall, also with more forces, with the issue of having people leave and potentially come back in through different channels, all that's going to cost money, Sean. Where does it come from?
Well, again, I think a lot of this has to be done in phases, right? Those are the four things that I outlined right off the bat are pretty big in themselves. And so one is to start that conversation about how do we deal with those major problems. I think how we pay for it and what the costs are relative already been appropriated is another conversation. But I think part of it is to figure out what Congress has already appropriated, what funds can be recaptured, what funds the agency like ICE needs to make sure that they're doing their jobs, the unfunded mandate that's currently imposed on states who have to use current general funds in their state budgets to deal with some of the impact of immigration on their states. So there is a much broader budget discussion that I would agree also needs to happen. But I think both, if not all of these, are major topics that have to be sort of addressed in and of themselves.
And I say about paying for the wall because in March, Peña Nieto told the Mexican newspaper Excelsior there was no scenario in which Mexico would pay for the suggestion of what Trump has said about a wall. He also went on to say there have been episodes in human history, unfortunately, where these expressions of this strident rhetoric have only led to very ominous situations in the history of humanity. That's how Mussolini got in. That's how Hitler got in. They took advantage of a situation, a problem perhaps, which humanity was going through at that time. Have you counseled Donald Trump or the campaign about the risk reward of today's visit in advance of this big speech tonight? And if so, what'd you say?
I think he has had an ongoing conversation with the entire team on the impact of the speech and the ability to look presidential, to address big and bold issues. But I think I mean, Thomas, one of the things that's getting missed in this discussion is that there is a shared interest with our neighbor to the south. Mexico has a much more stringent policy when it comes to immigration. It's the equivalent of a felony down there. And I think one of the things that we can do is work together in our shared national interest to talk about how legal immigration benefits both countries to make sure that that it's in our national interest on both sides. So this isn't just an American issue. I mean, the Mexican government has a much stricter policy when it comes to immigration for a reason. They understand the impact of illegal immigration on their economy, on their people and families.
Dream. Sean, they don't offer the American dream. I mean, we're known worldwide for the fact that we are all a nation of immigrants, and that is the fact of the American dream, that you can come here and achieve great things because of the opportunity that this affords. None of us would be here otherwise. So certainly other countries have different policies in place because they're certainly not the United States of America. But the risk reward for Donald Trump traveling to Mexico and having this appearance of looking presidential, is there any worry that Peña Nieto is going to take this as an opportunity to embarrass the GOP nominee?
Well, one thing that I think is important to correct you is we are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And I think that's important because one of the things that people come here for is to seek the American dream, to do better. But they also understand that we are a nation of laws and equality and justice for all. And so you can't have one without the other. And I think that's important. So people like to cherry pick parts of America. I like to look at a totality and say part of the reason that people come here is because they do seek that American dream, a better life for themselves, their families, but they also recognize that our system of justice is one that treats people fairly, that isn't corrupt, and I think that's part of the reason that other people do come here.
Contrasting us to the Mexican government, which you would probably say does have issues with corruption, does have issues with not having great laws on the books about justice and fairness, but you want to contrast our immigration system to theirs. So I think you're cherry-picking there because it's not apples to apples.
No, I'm sorry if I left you with that impression. I'm not cherry-picking anything, and I'm not contrasting. I'm just explaining the fact that in Mexico, they obviously understand the impact of this, and it's not a one-way conversation. It's a dialogue and a conversation between two neighbors about what's in their shared interest. My point being there is to say that this isn't America coming down and saying, we must have the following. The Mexican government and President Peña Nieto gets that. He understands the importance of having a legal and smart immigration policy that puts both countries' interests at the front of this, because it's not like it just benefits the U.S. or it just benefits Mexico. They fully agree that having a strong and vibrant legal immigration system benefits both countries and both peoples.
And Sean, I just want to check it out just so we have it in real time, because I've been looking at the Donald J. Trump website to see if there's been any enhancement or change to his policy on immigration, and I'm on it right now, and it doesn't look as if there have been any updates to this in advance of that speech tonight. But one thing that remains on here is his issue with ending birthright citizenship, and I know that Reince Priebus said that he does support birthright citizenship. So what conversations has the RNC had with Donald Trump about what his position will be, and if he illuminates that tonight?
Well, again, I think that's a position that the candidate holds himself, as the chairman pointed out. And again, I don't know that he'll tend to expand on that tonight. You'll have to tune in and watch at 9 o'clock tonight.
All right. A deep tease from Sean Spicer. Sean, good to have you on. Thanks, sir, for making time for me. I appreciate it.